Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Fantasy Football Podcast. Thoughts, analysis, and information to help you succeed in your fantasy football leagues. I am your host, Chad Lyon, and I am here as always with Tyler Bevel and our producer, Mitchell Bird. Hello. And today we have buys and sells for the Dynasty Contender and Rebuilder. Do not sit on your hands, folks. If you're a contender, then let go of that first-round draft pick and get what you need to put you over the top. If you're a rebuilder, then why is that 30-year-old star receiver still on your roster? Let him go. Get the young guy with potential. Get that draft pick. These are things that will make or break your process. How you doing, Ty?
Doing good, buddy.
Did you know that we have our first Grade the Trade segment?
I'm excited.
Me too. We'll do that at the end. A listener sent it in, so that's pretty awesome. But of course, before we get going, top 3 lists. Are you ready?
No.
Come on. Top 3 drama movies. Tyler, go. Yeah.
Man. See, this is one that you go into knowing you're going to miss. Like, there's too many.
This is one where it's like, we need to have a top 24 list.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Oh, man. Top dramas. I'm going to go with City of God as one of them. Amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. The Devil's Advocate with Keanu and Al Pacino there. Yeah,
it's a great movie.
Classic one. Man, this one's tough. I guess I'm going to exclude Forrest Gump because we're saying it's more of a comedy, and I'm going to go with Shawshank Redemption. Just
it's so good.
Classic.
Oh, I love it. Great list. Mitchell?
I'm going to go with...
I like that.
I'm excited about this.
Very excited about this list.
But I'm also have to agree. There's too many I'm going to miss. But right now, off the top of my head, Fight Club's got to be one of them.
Ooh,
love it.
Great.
Boondock Saints.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to go with 7, if that counts. It's a little gory.
What's in the box?
Yeah.
Such a good movie. Morgan
Kevin
Freeman.
Spacey was like that's great. That's a great movie.
That's fantastic. Yep.
Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey.
It was one of the first movies that really gave me like a mind, whoa, what the heck happened? I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Kevin Spacey has a knack for that in the movies. He's like the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Well, right there. Should be on my list. I'm looking at it right now. It's not. It's not.
It's tough.
It is tough.
Like as soon as he said 7, I was like, man, lucky number 11. Like, you guys remember that movie?
Yeah,
that's a great drama movie.
Josh Hartnett. Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Awesome
Mr.
movie.
Good Cat.
Yes.
Oh,
so good. I went with Reservoir Dogs.
Classic.
Love Tarantino. Blow. I think that's...
Heartbreaker.
Oh, the ending is so depressing.
You rewatch it, you know it's coming. It's like, well, we've seen enough. We don't have to watch this ending.
We don't need that part at all. Yeah, it's rough, man. Oh, it's so sad. And Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Nice.
Awesome.
Huge Hunter Thompson fan. I know I got 2 Johnny Depp movies there. I didn't do that on purpose. I almost had 2 Tarantino movies. I love Pulp Fiction too. I can't believe I left it off the list, but
That's tough.
that's tough. Real tough.
You ever see True Romance?
Boy,
Christian Slater. It's one of Tarantino's earlier movies. It's super good, though.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
True Romance. Okay.
And I really like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's great.
Yeah, good
That's
movie.
great.
For sure.
Fantastic. Okay. That's our top 3 list. Let's, Tyler, you want to start off with buys for Contender?
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with quarterbacks here. So these are buys for Contenders. Odds are, if you're win now, quarterbacks probably not on your list of needs or something that needs upgraded, but it's possible. Maybe you're solid everywhere, but all you have is Geno Smith.
Yeah. Or super flex, and you need that 2v2.
Yeah, maybe you're in a super flex, which tends to be more common in Dynasty. Maybe you've got one solid quarterback, solid everywhere else, and would like that one like wily vet to push you over the top in that super flex spot. If you're in that position, I like Aaron Rodgers. Shouldn't cost you too much, as long as you're not trying to pull him off another Contenders team, specifically in super flex. I think he's still got something to him. He's got a great defense to back him up. He's got a great run game. And I believe he's got what's about to be an absolute, no questions asked, elite pass catcher in Garrett Wilson. Say what you want about Rodgers, personally off the field stuff. I don't care. I want points. I'm playing with my brain, not playing with my heart. he still throws the prettiest ball in the NFL. He's still an elite arm talent. The line keeping him upright might be a little cause for concern. But in my opinion, he's absolutely a buy for a contender, needing his services for a season. And a team needing him should be willing. A team not needing him should be willing to accept a third. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty reasonable offer.
I'll say, too, that the price of him coming off this Achilles is right. Like,
Yes.
this is where you're going to get him at a low point. He's at the back end of his career, but I agree with everything you said. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, and the Achilles injury last year just sucked. I mean,
if someone's getting tough on it, would you throw in a future third as well? Would you give 2/3? If you're looking at your roster and it's like, this is what's going to push me over the top potentially, I'll just give them another third. Like if they're being stubborn.
yeah, if I'm a quarterback short, then absolutely.
Yeah, right.
We've said it throughout these podcasts that we've had. It is tough to win, and if that's the guy that you're going to get, if 2/3 is going to get you in contention for a fantasy championship, go do it.
It's an easy buy.
Yep.
This is what we say. Like don't sit on your hands. Like Ty just said, it's hard to win. So, like if you're ready to contend, what are those thirds doing for you right now?
Yeah, and in Dynasty, sometimes these chances come up every couple of years. If you're there and you're a top 4 team, especially in a super flex, and you need a second quarterback, or like Chad said, your quarterback is the only position that you're lacking at, I'd give a 2 for Rodgers.
If you really had to, like a late second.
I mean, like when you're doing these trades, you're obviously trying to get him for the cheapest price you can.
Sure.
But like
sometimes your trade partner gets a little stubborn.
If Aaron Rodgers stays on his feet, I think he has a good year. And yeah, I
at minimum a super serviceable year.
Sure.
I would think.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt Stafford. He's my other buy. I have the same feeling here essentially that I kind of do with Rodgers. From the right team, it shouldn't cost you a ton.
No. The only thing we differ on this, I believe, is that I actually think Stafford has more in the tank.
Okay.
I think that
I say 2 max.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying that that's out of line. I wonder if Aaron Rodgers, this is his final year.
Sure. I get that.
Contract's up, right?
Yeah.
I could see Stafford going 3, maybe 2 is more the sweet spot, but I do think you're maybe getting a more long-term thing with Stafford. You're still going win now. You're a contender this year. You want that. But if Aaron Rodgers retires, obviously you ain't getting anything for him. You might actually go make a run and then trade Stafford for a 3rd-round pick the next year or something.
Get it right back.
Yep.
Yeah. I think he does have a little more upside than Rodgers because of that. I mean, I think Rodgers, if he has a good year, he's probably going to call it.
Yeah, to be fair, I think Rodgers has the better year. If I have to make a prediction right now, I think Rodgers puts up better numbers this year than Stafford, but maybe Stafford has more value long-term, if you will. I don't think either of them are long-term, but
with a healthy Cooper Kupp, he's got more weapons than Rodgers when you consider, Puka versus the Jets' number 2 receiver.
yeah.
Not to mention solid run game with Kyron Williams. But yeah, I think I'd pay about the same. Yeah, I guess I'd push it to a late second if I had to.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you don't get there much.
No, you're not giving up a first for either of these guys. This is a buy low. You want a buy low that's going to put you in contention to
Sure
make a run.
What if you only have 2 quarterbacks? And you say you can get either one of these guys for a 3rd-round pick. You got to jump on that too, right?
Yeah.
Get your third, if you're in a super flex league, get your 3rd wheel. Okay. This one might be a tougher buy.
Okay.
This is you. Give me some Kyler Murray.
Yeah. I think it's going to cost you more, but I think this is the lowest price you are going to get Kyler Murray for.
That's fair.
He's coming off a season, at the beginning of the season, he was rehabbing from a torn ACL. He found himself in a new system when he did come back. But in the sample size that we had, it was good. And I think it's going to get better. I think Kyler Murray is going to be fringe top 10 quarterback, and his ADP and his price do not correlate with that right now. So if you're a contender and you can I'd give a first for Kyler Murray.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in contention, he's 26. This is a player that you could have for a long term too. And I think this is the lowest point because of coming off of the rehab from last year. And, I think once he has a good year this year, you're not going to get him at that price.
Would you give more than a first?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I'd give, not a lot, but I'd give something else
Toss
with
a second in there,
sure.
or younger player.
Younger
maybe,
player, yeah.
If you're pulling, till 26. It's got to be a tough rebuilding team then. I mean, they're going to have to be pretty sad.
Yeah.
And if you are in that boat, I wouldn't blame you for making that move. If you're in the rebuilders boat. Like you said, 26.
Yeah, he's right on that fringe where do you want to keep him for...
He's been knocked around a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea. Well, that kind of goes with what we were saying, like Superflex League. Maybe you're solid everywhere and you have Geno and Rodgers.
Yeah. Go get Kyler Murray.
I would give a first and I would give a second and I would take that all day long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I said, I do want to stress that I think right now, I think Kyler Murray is going to have a really good year with the weapons that they've put around him. Connor's still there. I think Michael Wilson has a good year. I think he's going to be a very good receiver. And obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., I've said a lot about that kid. I think he's a top 10 wide receiver year one right out of the gate. And I think this thing really gets rolling. I think Kyler Murray still can run the ball. I'm not shocked at all if Kyler Murray is a top 10 QB at the end of the year. And if you can give a first and a second for that right now, assuming you have like a Geno Smith and an Aaron Rodgers, a top 10 QB is going to just skyrocket.
Catapult you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any other... I have no pushback there. I mean, I can't really push back against that.
Yeah, Chad's guys are maybe the better bargain value, being there later in their careers, but Kyler is still a buy for me that I want to go after now while I think the price is as low as it's going to be.
Great fair points there, man. So do you have another quarterback? You don't have any other quarterbacks, right?
No.
That's it. Okay. Running back buys. So this is where my strategy that I've been chirping about really comes into play. So for me personally, when I'm ready to contend, my position of need is 90% of the time as a running back or two. It's not a position of emphasis to me when I'm rebuilding, other than keeping a few guys around, some young guys around, some guys so I can field a lineup. And I'll have the occasional young buck or two, with future upside, so that when I am ready to compete, maybe they're ready too. Generally speaking, I'm pretty weak at this position when I fall into contender mode. So I get out there and I pay what I need to put myself in position to go for it. It's just a shelf life thing,
Yeah.
So this, in my opinion, is the biggest separation between redraft and dynasty formats from like a position standpoint.
And the other thing is how much of the game has changed.
Yes.
Last year, Christian McCaffrey was the only running back that had 1,400 yards. 10 years ago, you could have 10 guys have 1,400 yards in a season. Last year, we had one. The game has just changed. There's not as much value at the running back position. They are still very valuable. They are still needed. I'm not saying that.
Of course.
But in a dynasty format especially, it's just a different ball game with these running backs. Like you said, the shelf life is so much shorter.
So why have them while you're rebuilding? There's no point.
No. If they're young and you landed them in a draft, great, good for you. But
yeah, my first running back buy is Derrick Henry.
Love it.
I got stock in Henry in a 14-man league this offseason, anticipating that he would indeed be a Raven. I'm a contender in this league. I gave a 2026 first to a rebuilder. Sounds high, but it's 2026. We still haven't had our 2024 rookie draft in that league. So if I can recoup that someday.
You're giving a first, but it's a down the road first.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about it right now. I understand the concern with age and workload, and I do understand that the workload's been quite a bit heftier than your average NFL running back. However, let's remember he did not have to really play at all when he came around. Didn't have a lot of play time to speak much of until almost, I think it was mid to late second season in the league.
Yeah,
and even then it wasn't a whole lot. DeMarco Murray was in his way. I believe there's still some tread on these tires. What do you think?
I do. And you can say all the stuff you want about the workload, and you never know what's going to happen. But for all that stuff you can say, you can also say that Derrick Henry is just built different than your average running back too.
He is.
And I don't think he's... Maybe that 2,000-yard season in Tennessee, that O-line was great. Don't get me wrong. They mowed people over, plowed lanes. He's never had an offense with this much talent around him.
No, I'm willing to bet he surpasses most people's expectations in this offense.
Yeah.
Like, he fell right where he needed to. I was so pumped because, like I said, I paid for him before he fell there.
Imagine what it's like.
So glad I did.
Being Derrick Henry right now. Like, you get on that field in week 1. This might be the first time in 4 or 5 years that this guy hasn't seen a stacked box.
Right.
On first down.
Yep.
That's scary.
I think he's an awesome buy for a contender.
Yeah.
I think he's a great buy. He's not going to be asked to carry the offense by himself, who also put an emphasis on the run games. It's so perfect. So, yeah, I did. I'd give a first year if I'm contending, as I stated above. I do prefer it to be a future first if you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Because even though I say there's some tread on the tires, I mean there's tread on the tires right now. I don't mean a year or two down the road.
But for this year, you're making a run.
I think he's got a league-winning season in him, and he's on the right roster with the right pieces, man.
Yeah.
I think he's an awesome buy.
Don't know if he could have had a better landing spot.
No, that's really what it's all about to me was, like I said, I thought he was going to fall there. I threw the pick out. I threw the dart throw. I rolled the dice. And a week or so afterwards, the signing happened, and I was jumping through the ceiling like, yes, man.
Yeah.
So
and the other part of that, and you're starting to look ahead now, but you have to in Dynasty and stuff.
Right.
Derrick Henry comes out and is awesome this year. He still will have, if you are lucky enough to do what Chad said, go out there, get Henry, you make a run, you win a championship, and Derrick Henry is just awesome all year. Maybe cash in then.
Yep.
You have to think of stuff like that. Okay, well, I'm giving a 26 first, but if I can get a 27 first back at the end of next year.
Or even a second.
Yeah. Like, you made a run, had that awesome year with Derrick Henry, and you still get a return on him. Like, that's.
Yep. And that's potentially something I would look into doing.
Sure.
I mean, I'm going to monitor the season, and if it's like, man, he got through completely healthy. They didn't give him nearly as much as maybe we thought, and still had a great season. And you're still win now? Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe just hold on to him.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. But, when you get to that point. But what's not a tough spot is the idea of getting him. If you can get him, go get him. If he's on a garbage team, go pay for him. All right, that's Derrick Henry. Let's move on to another one of Ty's guys, Nick Chubb.
Yep. And I am not going to lie to you that there is risk here.
Yep.
Lots of risk. He's coming off a torn MCL, ACL, plus meniscus. So what I'm saying here is that right now, people are down on Nick Chubb. If you're looking at your roster preseason, I think you can get Nick Chubb for a very cheap price right now. And could that come back to haunt you? You bet. He is 28 years old, and the recent history for guys coming back from an ACL is not good.
No. 28's a scary year, too.
It is.
That's when things do start to slope.
But Nick Chubb didn't have a huge workload early on either. There was, he was always seemed to be some other guy there, whether it was Kareem Hunt or whoever that was in there also. But for Nick Chubb's price, going off his ADP and his price, Nick Chubb is a guy that I think you can get for a very cheap price, and he has a high upside. The hope is that it's not a Javonte Williams situation.
Right.
Props to Javonte Williams for being there and coming back for his team and being a warrior that way, but I think it hindered him last year.
Sure.
If I'm making this trade for Nick Chubb, my best case scenario is he doesn't play till week 6 or 8, and he comes back fully healthy, rested, ready to go, and starts getting the work. I think that's best case scenario. You don't want to see him rush back week 1 or early in the season. You don't want that. You want him as a contender to make a run later in the season, hoping that he gets fully recovered from that injury. If you get Nick Chubb at 90% of himself, for what I think you could get Nick Chubb for a second right now, possibly even less than that.
I'd prefer it to be a future.
Yeah.
Because of the situation.
Right. But I think you could get that. I think there's still the upside here because the Browns are going to have to run the ball. I've been very clear that I don't have a lot of confidence in Deshaun Watson. They're going to need guys to run the ball. Jerome Ford is a serviceable player, but you're not going to convince me that if 90% Nick Chubb is still better than Jerome Ford. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, me too.
So I want to take this chance as a buy low candidate. Get him now, coming off the injury. If it burns you, it burns you. I'm not giving up a lot for this, but if you can get a future second or a now third and get Nick Chubb on a contending team, maybe with a bench player in there too or something, take it.
And is this something that you're more looking to do? Like maybe you have 2 serviceable running backs, but you don't have a third, or one maybe you don't feel great about. Are you thinking more like that, or is this like he's your guy, he's your 1, or he's your 2?
I think he could be your 2, and it's for this year because that 28 number is getting scary. But I don't like the situation of coming back from an MCL, ACL injury. That's bad. But I do like the situation of it seems like the Browns want to be patient. Him coming back healthy mid-season to me is perfect. That's when you need him anyway to make a run. So, yeah, on a team, I'm not trading him with the expectation of coming in and being Nick Chubb of 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
But as a serviceable RB2, enough to give you a push if you're weak at the running back spot for the price that you're getting him for, yeah.
I like the scenario of adding Nick Chubb, and you're also pretty solid at running back. I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
If I can get him for a second or a third, I'm still doing it because you tell me I can throw a 85 to 90% Nick Chubb in my flex by week 12, week
for
10.
sure. Yeah.
You know?
That's a good point. But what I will say about this Nick Chubb thing is do it now.
Oh, yes.
Don't wait until week 6 when he's getting ready to come back because people are going to jack the price up. Like, make this move now, put it on the plate out there, and hope that it pays off for you.
Yeah, I like that. There's going to be a couple other do it now things, and he falls right under that category for sure. I like that. All right, that's Nick Chubb. Let's move on to Saquon Barkley. I don't actually have notes in front of me, so I'm going to kind of go off the cusp here because I'm an Eagles fan. Listen, I think this is as obvious and easy as Derrick Henry. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so the injuries have been there. I'm that same 14-man league that I got Derrick Henry. I also got Saquon Barkley. I had Dalton Kincaid and Trey McBride both in a super flex, and I let Trey McBride go, and I got Saquon, and I got a second-round pick.
Okay.
To a rebuilder. I don't know why I got the second, but I got the second. Thanks, Brian. I know you're going to hear this. But I did. And I think he was just trying to be fair. I was making a joke there, but I do think he was trying to be fair. He literally said to me, I'll even toss in a second. I know he's old. I know he's nearing the end. And I appreciated that, and I'm not going to say no.
Right.
So, listen, man, he's never been on a team like this before.
Not even close.
This is very similar to Derrick Henry.
There's other playmakers for a start.
Yes. I think it's potential. It's got potential that they could run his wheels off, but I don't think it starts out that way. I think he can actually do, and we've talked about this, he can do more with less. He's got all these guys around him. He should not see stacked boxes. People to pull attention away. Saquon Barkley is an elite running back, and I think he still is.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's a very tough buy. You know, I'm not saying everyone out there run out and go throw Trey McBride at all the Saquon. I mean, make your own deal, but I'm just saying I was willing to give up that much. I think it's going to be that good. I think he's going to see plenty of pass catching work. He's never been behind a line like this, even though, okay, they lost Kelce, but it's still a way better line than what he's gotten used to running behind. You'd agree with that, correct?
Yeah. Everything across the board. Better O-line. He's not the only playmaker anymore. Better QB play. Everything. Across
so this
the board.
sounds like Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of idea.
I think, honestly, there's some upside with Saquon because of being able to catch, not that Derrick Henry can't catch passes, but
right.
Saquon definitely has more upside as a receiving back out of the backfield, and I think there's going to be space for him to do it.
Me too. Hurts is so thrilled that he's there. He's going to chuck it out to him.
Well, why would you not be?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to get utilized, and I think what you're going to find is as the season goes on, I think you might see them leaning a little more. So you get later in the season, I think that could really benefit you.
Yeah, that's when you need it.
Yep.
We're talking about contenders here. That's when you need it.
Yep.
And you can say about the injury stuff and all that, but I'm telling you right now, for all these players that we're talking about on these buys, don't let that be your deciding factor.
Nope. If I understand the concern behind it.
Sure.
But if you let it be your deciding factor all the time and you go against that grain, you're going to lose more than you win.
Pull the orange card off the Monopoly board and take a chance.
100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, we're just going to sit here essentially being a broken record for the next 5 minutes if we keep rolling on Saquon. I know I could. So let's move on to one of your guys, man. Let's go on to Devin Singletary.
Yeah. I like this one a lot as a very buy low target, even for a contender. I mean, Singletary, he very quietly surpassed 1,000 yards from scrimmage last year, and he's led each team that he's played for in rushing. He's also, and in his career, this guy's had a 4.6 yards per carry average. There's not a lot of other people there. Tracy, which, I like him in Dynasty. Don't get me wrong. I have some stock in Tracy. But Devin Singletary, and especially at his ADP, and I think you could get Devin Singletary very cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's a fantastic buy.
He's also had 30 catches in 4 of his last 5 seasons.
Yep. It's sneaky.
I mean, if I'm looking for somebody, an affordable trade target that I think is going to benefit my team and help push that, especially like with your theory of not having running backs, like, man, if you can get a good starting running back for a price like this, like,
you shouldn't
go get it.
You shouldn't have to pay that much.
No.
You should. You really shouldn't.
Like I said, I like Tracy. I have stock in Tracy throughout all that. But Singletary, and not only that, Singletary played for Brian Daboll in Buffalo. He's familiar with this offensive system. I definitely think week 1, this guy's coming in, and I think Tracy's going to have a hard time really taking this job for him. He's ran well when given opportunities, and I think that continues. And get him now before the season starts.
Yep, I think that could be a great buy. Okay, let's move on to wide receiver buys. Now, buying the right wide receiver in a win now format can absolutely shoot your team to the moon. And you'll exceed your own expectations quite frequently. It's a passer's league in today's NFL. We kind of touched on that for the most part. It is. This is usually a position I encourage people to shore up and create good depth throughout their rebuild process. As having a solid, wide receiver core, in my opinion, is the most important next to quarterbacks in Superflex. Due to the potential shelf life and the fact that it is a passer's league.
And maybe the most important in a non-Superflex.
Yes. But like any position, sometimes you will find yourself a piece short. Even me, the way that I build, it's like, I really could use an extra receiver here. So you got to shore it up. Don't go in thinking, this is probably enough. Winning leagues is hard. If you have the draft capital, go get the extra wide receiver, get your boost. It's tough to find yourself in these positions, so don't waste it. Give up that pick.
Yeah.
So my first buy here for receivers is Cooper Kupp. Again, it's a kind of an obvious one. To me, it's an obvious one. 31 years old, a bit of a real injury track record. This is going to be a tough one for some, but it's just not for me.
I don't think it's super obvious because of what you just said. The 31 years age and the injury track record, I think you can get Kupp pretty cheap.
Right. So you should be able to get him. I mean, maybe a late second or early third gets him. If you're a rebuilder, why? Like, get what you can. Yeah. And this is another one, like, get him now.
Yeah.
You better get him now. Aside from a cheap grab, I think the talent hasn't necessarily left the building. As far as his rapport with his quarterback goes, it still takes the cake, man. I believe he's got another above average season in him. I'll bet some capital on that talent and the rapport with Stafford, and just hope he holds up.
You're a contender right now with 3 good wide receivers and a shaky flex spot. What are you giving up for Kupp?
A second.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Again, winning is hard. Sometimes you got to buy it, man. Sometimes you got to buy your win. Most oftentimes you do. Like, the odds that things just fall together so perfectly is so rare. So sometimes you got to go buy your guy, man. Just like in real life, teams are like, we need a stud running back to get through this, clearly.
Right.
So you do it. And to me, that's pretty modest. Like, if I'll give a second for that upcoming year's draft. I'll toss him a third for the following year. I'll throw a third for that year if I have to.
Yeah.
It's again, winning is hard. Go buy your win. If you have to buy a win, go buy your win. So yeah, I'm going to buy. Hope I get a nudge in my weekly scoring there. And the beauty of this move is it should be cheap enough where, like, say somebody's rebuilding real bad and they'll take 2/3 or just a second. That leaves additional room to afford another piece if you need it.
Right.
Like maybe in like a high caliber piece. Not that Cooper Kupp can't be high caliber. And I think he can push that. But even, 80% Cooper Kupp is pretty awesome as your fourth guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it.
We're 3 years removed from a triple crown.
Yep. And now
like football is a now sport. I get that. Like, what did you do recently?
Sure.
But, even last year when he was on the field before that, those injuries started nagging him. I mean, there was solid performances there. I think there's still some of that left for Cooper Kupp for sure.
Okay. We haven't had much pushback here between the two of us. I don't think we're going to get much.
I will. To jazz for it. I am not as high on Cooper Kupp. The 31 is an issue for me, and it's not as much of a problem for receivers. And how much longer is Stafford? If Stafford doesn't play next year, then I think
I'm buying Cooper Kupp thinking just right now, and then I may not get anything back. It might be over after this, but sometimes you got to buy the win.
So I'm not going to push back. If Cooper Kupp is healthy, who is going to be surprised that he has 80 catches, 1,200 yards, and 8 touchdowns?
Not me.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. My next buy, DJ Moore. 27 years old, plenty left in the tank, but he's kind of closing in on the not a spring chicken type of age.
Yeah.
Which could help aid in the case for trading for him if he's owned by a legit rebuilding type team.
I bought him on a rebuilding team.
You bought him from a rebuilding?
No, I feel like that team in the Keystone League is.
Oh, you bought him and put him on your rebuild?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was part, and I traded a young running back for him just because of how we value different positions and to each their own. But
right.
I traded Devon Achane straight up for DJ Moore.
DJ Moore can kind of go both ways here.
Yeah.
He's a player you'll most likely pay somewhat handsomely for, regardless of that situation. And it's not going to matter what kind of roster he sits on. Like if he's on a rebuilder and I have DJ Moore and someone's like, I'm going to make them pay.
Right.
I won't go too ridiculous because I'm rebuilding and I if I feel like moving him is the best thing for me, I'll make a good trade, but I'm going to shoot for the moon first and we can work it down from there. Yeah, I'm big on him, man. Caleb Williams coming in. There's more pieces now to take attention away from him.
I know, and I feel like the stock has come down because of Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen, and I don't necessarily know if that's accurate. I think maybe it helps DJ Moore a little bit. Maybe he doesn't get the targets, but I see DJ Moore putting up wide receiver 1 numbers.
Yeah, again, he's 27, and you're still going to have some life after this season if you buy him.
For a long time.
That's a great thing, too. This might be a bit of a long shot. Like DJ Moore might be tough to get your hands on, but paired with an extremely gifted athletic quarterback who could splash immediately because of, DJ Moore and the other pieces that are around him. That's just another bump for him. With Justin Fields, he averaged just over 16 points per game last year.
Yeah. He was a target share monster last year.
Right. That should stay at minimum right around that average. Worst case, right?
I think he's getting a little bit less this year, but like I said, I don't think it affects the end stat line.
Okay. Finishes wide receiver 6, again with Justin Fields. I mean,
I don't think he leaves the top 10.
No, I don't think so either. So this is, like I said, this is a little bit more of a long shot.
Yeah, you're going to pay for him.
I'll give a first.
Yeah.
I have no problem. Like, again, if you're contending, go win.
Yeah, and like
Go
I said,
win.
this one is a both ways. I put DJ Moore on a rebuild team because I think there's a lot of life left there, and I liked him over Devon Achane. But if you're a contender and you have 3 good wide receivers, and you can put him as your wide receiver 3 or flex spot, whatever.
Yeah. You might have to sneak a player with that first.
Yeah.
I don't know. But if I have
But if there's a way that you're a contender and you can keep your starting lineup and use picks or bench players to get DJ Moore, I'd do it.
Why not?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a good year for him. Okay, I think we have to pick up the pace a little bit. Let's move on to Drake London.
Well, we can pick up the pace on this one because this is a very popular opinion that the Falcons wide receivers are going to get an uptick in production. I mean, this is a Kirk Cousins inflation. And London, I think he could actually stand to gain the most. And we're going to talk about Kyle Pitts later too because of the Kirk Cousins inflation. Now with Drake London, his ADP reflects Kirk Cousins coming there.
Sure.
So you're going to pay more for him. This would have been a great buy low end of last year before Kirk Cousins came, but not that anybody could. But I still think you want to do this before the season starts because I think Drake London is going to have a big year. Kirk Cousins is proven to be a quarterback that can sustain fantasy wide receivers and more precisely wide receiver ones.
Okay.
So Zach Robinson calling the plays. I think they're going to scheme ways to get this guy the ball, and big year for Drake London. Again, if you got those picks and you're a contender, this is the guy. Go get him.
Could cost you.
I think it's gonna, in a lot of projections and stuff, he's for top 15. So it's the Kirk Cousins inflation is real as far as what you're gonna pay to, but I'll take that.
Some of these buys are just easier than others.
Yeah,
that's all. That's all there is to it. There's more than one way to do this here. Let's move on to Diontae Johnson.
This one shouldn't cost you that much.
No.
But you know what I'm going to say about Diontae Johnson is this dude creates separation and gets open.
Yep.
And that is what Bryce Young needs. That's 2 things that Carolina was severely lacking last year from any of their wide receivers. You could make the argument that Adam Thielen had a good year. I think Adam Thielen, the gas is kind of coming out a little bit.
Yep, I think he's 33.
Yeah, he's up there. I look for Johnson to be a safety blanket for Bryce Young. And I have my thoughts on Bryce Young, but I actually think Diontae Johnson is, for what he's getting his ADP and his value right now. I'm saying people are labeling him in wide receiver 3, possibly even wide receiver 4 territory. I think this guy's a wide receiver 2 at the end of the year.
No kidding.
Just because I think this guy is going to run underneath, and I think he's going to catch a pile of short passes from Bryce Young because he just gets
nothing about
open.
this has to be pretty.
No.
And so
Diontae Johnson is going to get the separation. He's good at running underneath routes for a young quarterback to hit him with. I think this is something that people are kind of overlooking here a little bit.
Matt Canada did not help his case either.
No, he didn't help. No, absolutely not. And, Johnson with the attitude, whatever you want to say. I think this is a good situation for Diontae Johnson from a fantasy football perspective. And I think his value is going to be way higher than what it is right now. So go get him right now and get him on your team because I think this is a guy that could be a wide receiver too. Easily a flex.
I agree, and he should be fairly cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to tight end buys. Another pretty obvious one here to me. Travis Kelce. 34 years old. Any rebuilder should be willing to give this up. Any rebuilder should be willing to give this up. I still think there's some left in the tank. Listen, he was easier for defenders to take away from the Chiefs last year due to a lack of pass catchers around him. I mean, that's obviously changed with what they've had added in Hollywood and Xavier Worthy. So I know I certainly expect a bump in production. Even just a little bump would make this move worth it. And I expect more than a little. I think 8 touchdowns and 950 yards is absolutely doable. That's not a reach.
Right.
He was around 950 or so and 5 touchdowns last year, I believe.
Yeah.
Would you?
I think the touchdowns go way up.
Way up. Yeah. So I was, as me being a little more conservative, I don't want to say 12 touchdowns and 1,100 yards.
He's done that before.
I know he has, but he's also 34. So I don't want to be too crazy with this. But I just think you could get him for cheap, and he could blow your expectations out of the water.
I think the name you're still going to pay a little bit for, but I think it's worth it for a contender.
Yeah.
34 years or not, I think especially a tight end premium league. I still think you're going to pay for Travis Kelce, but I'll take it because they're just not going to be able to drop these safeties on him all the time with that speed on the outside, and he's going to do his work on the underneath. And this guy, throughout his career, has been very solid. I mean, rarely is he injured or off the field. Yeah, I'm with you on this 100%.
At the end of the day, healthy Travis Kelce on the field with Pat Mahomes is still deadly.
Yeah.
No one's going to convince me otherwise. This is an easy buy for me. I will 100% give a second.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give a second. I'll buy that championship if I gotta.
I'm greedier to the point that if I feel like tight end is the only spot to make me have a run, I give a first.
Oh, man. I don't know if I give a first, Ty.
If you think you're going to win, if you think you have a chance at actually winning a title, and you have Chico Conquo as your tight end.
I mean, so here's the deal. If that guy comes back to me and says, I'll need a first, I'll say, I'll see you in 48 hours. Let me jump around the league a little bit and see what I can do. Okay. But worst case scenario,
I think there's one more really good year out of Travis Kelce.
This is the one?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, we both like Travis Kelce. Awesome. Let's move on to Jake Ferguson. This is going to be a little tougher, I think. It could prove a little difficult getting a rebuilder to sell here, potentially.
Yeah, he's still young.
Yeah. But, you know what? Also, not everyone feels the same about Jake Ferguson as I do. So, if you've got a team in your league who simply isn't very high on him, I'm buying as a contender all day. He had what I call a breakout light year last season. I think he breaks out in a real way this year. Dak likes to utilize him. 71 catches, 761 yards, and 5 touchdowns last year. And I think that gets closer to where I think Kelce could land. Closer to like the 8 touchdown, 950.
Do you think he's moving up into that upper echelon tight end bracket this year?
I think he really could, man.
Yeah.
I really do think. I mean, because after CeeDee Lamb, I mean, come on. Yes, I know Brandon Cooks is there, but I'm over that.
Getting this trade, the thing that could help you making this trade happen is Luke Schoonmaker, who is there, but I really think Ferguson is Dak's guy, and that's going to be the tight end one coming out of there. And
I read something recently that they're over Schoonmaker.
Just Ferguson.
Ferguson's been too good for them to ignore.
I totally agree with that.
And he is murdering it in training camp.
Yeah.
I mean, he is looking fantastic. Yeah, I think he gets closer to 900 yards and 8 touchdowns with potential for more touchdowns. I'm be a little conservative on the yards there.
Go into that in your trade talks. I'll be like, well, Schoonmaker's there, so maybe maybe take a little bit off that price for me, bud.
It sounds like he's really asserting himself as a top pass catcher behind CD, like with everything that's coming out, you know, all the reports that I'm reading. The only thing truly in his way, like we said, is like 30-year-old Brandon Cooks. I'm going to bet on the upside and talent and what sounds like pure dedication to progressing himself as far as, you know, like I said, camp news is gone. I know you got to be a little careful with camp news. I understand that. But I had these feelings about him to begin with, and it's nice to just read this stuff and be like, okay, all right. If I have what I know is going to be a late first, I might be aggressive and pay it.
That's the other thing. If you're a contender, you're feeling like your first round pick is at the end of the
right, and his age at 25 kind of aids the pain of giving a first.
Well, that age makes it
also tougher to get him.
Tougher to get him.
Why you're giving that first?
25.
You'll have him around for a little bit,
a long time. Yeah,
and
in a dynasty, a long time.
And if it works out the way I think, you're going to get more value giving up that first and getting Ferguson than most likely than you are spending that first round pick at the end of the.
Flip side of that is you've seen Ferguson do it at the NFL level. And he's 25, whereas a rookie, you can do all the research you want. You're still taking a chance.
Yep. Go with what you've seen. If you're a contender, go with what you've already seen. And you kind of have to, because that rookie draft upcoming ain't going to do a damn thing for you.
No.
So, all right, let's move on to Kyle Pitts. Tyler, take it away, buddy.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. This is pretty much a mirror of Drake London. Cousins inflation has driven the price up some, but what is keeping Kyle Pitts where I still have him on my buy list is that he has just burnt people year after year after year. I think with Kirk Cousins, this is a year. Arthur Smith is gone. I think this is a year that we finally see, because, when Kyle Pitts came out, everybody said, oh, it's a generational talent. That's all you heard. I think we start to see some of that this year. Stat to correlate that is only 68% of Pitts' targets were deemed catchable last year, and 59% the year before that were catchable.
Terrible.
And he's a big dude.
Oh, yeah. Dennis Ritter's not
Kirk
it.
Cousins, those numbers are going to come up by like 20% with Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think they're going to just find more ways to get him the ball where he can do something after. I don't think it's going to be like it was before with Ritter. I mean, I'm just going to wrap it up with the QB upgrade here. Just makes me want to buy stock in Kyle Pitts. And it's still Kyle Pitts. You're still going to pay for it because of Kirk Cousins coming there. Same with Dre London. As soon as Kirk Cousins signed that contract, his ADP came up. Everything came up. But I'm ready to get my heart broken one more time and take this chance with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'll take the shot there. Like Tyler said, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay. You're gonna pay more than you'd pay for Ferguson, most likely.
Yeah.
But again, picks aren't gonna do anything for you. If your team's that good and in the top 3, top 4 of your 12 to 14 man league, man.
Well, that Carey just made a trade for Kyle Pitts, right?
Yes, and it was it involved Ferguson.
It did.
So
now,
This isn't the podcast league, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Jake Ferguson, and I believe a second and a fourth for Pitts.
It was a haul for Pitts, not going to lie.
And Nick and Carey made that trade together.
Yep.
I like it for both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you pulling that up right now?
I'm trying to pull it up quick, yeah.
Okay. I'll let you go ahead and work on pulling that up. Holler at me when you get it. Let's move on to quarterbacks. We're on the sells now, so we're moving into the sell territory. So quarterback sells. Kirk Cousins. I just have one here. Kirk Cousins. This should not be a very difficult sell if you're trying to rebuild. This should be so easy. Age and Michael Penix are both against him. The end is very near here. There's no reason to hold a 35-year-old quarterback while you're in this boat. It's just, for lack of a better way to put it, it's dumb. Don't do that. Don't get rid of the 35-year-old quarterback. In a super flex league, settle for a couple picks. Let the contender go have his day. It's not your time. I would absolutely settle for a late second if you can get it, coupled with a future third or fourth. Get what you can. And if the second is all I can get, then so be it. It does more for me than holding Cousins. And another thing that you could do is let this ride a few weeks. And let people see oh man, things are changing in Atlanta, because I think they're going to. If it doesn't, that's where Michael Penix comes in.
There's a lot of hype right now too to drive the price up a little bit for Kirk Cousins, even before the season starts. I'm not saying that's a bad plan, but there's a pile of hype around Atlanta right now.
There is. So if somebody in your league is affected by that hype and is willing to pay, oh man, do it. If you're struggling to, if no one's offering you a second round pick, you could maybe sit there and go, let's give it a few weeks. Somebody's going to need them. Someone's going to give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. I'm selling Tua.
Okay.
Tua's coming off a career year, 4,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, did throw 14 interceptions. My thing is I do not feel that this is a sustainable stat line for Tua Tagovailoa. There was so much run after the catch, big plays by Tyreek Hill, Devon A-Chain that were just so many rack yards. And I just don't think that's a sustainable thing from year to year to year. So if I'm on a rebuilding team and I'm sitting there with Tua Tagovailoa, he is gone.
Yeah, I've never been big on Tua, man. I've never been big on him, period. There's a lot of trickery in that offense he's in that can fool you.
Yeah. Mike's a mad genius.
Yep, he's an incredible coach. I'm not going to disagree with you, man. I understand some people might push back on this and say, his age, and I'm rebuilding, so why wouldn't I hold him? If you like Tua, then I guess go ahead. But I'm going to caution you to maybe listen to Ty's side of the story, because the numbers don't lie, man. And
I'll be shocked if Tua puts up a season like he did this year.
Oh, me too.
30 touchdowns. I just don't. Coming off that good year, right now is where I want to sell him high.
Right.
Get the highest point you can get for Tua Tagovailoa.
get a haul and start that rebuild. Like really start that rebuild.
And when say the opposite of what we're saying, like, oh man, he's great. He came off this 4,600. He's still young. Sell him up. But right now, I do want to sell him high.
And I want to make it clear when I said numbers don't lie. I mean the numbers that you don't see without diving a little deeper. Obviously, the numbers on face are, but that's the point.
He threw 14 picks last year. There was some decision-making.
There's that too.
Decision-making issues there.
There's that too. But don't let the yardage fool you.
No, because this team their rack yards are so much more than any other team in the NFL.
I don't know. I agree. I don't know how that can sustain.
No.
I mean, he'll probably be fine, but he's not going to. You're just not going to get that again.
And you're talking Dynasty.
And
how much longer is Tyreek going to be there? Because you can say whatever you want. Jalen Waddle's a very good wide receiver. This thing revolves, at least from a Tua Tagovailoa fantasy perspective, around Tyreek Hill being there and his run after the catch ability. Because it's just so much of his yardage is
that's the point right there.
Making big plays.
That's a great point. It's a great point. Yeah, I would sell Tua, man.
Now, coming off that
frail.
Yeah, coming off that big season, played a full season, had a good stat line. I'm shopping him and selling him for what I can get.
Okay, good call. Were you able to pull up that trade?
Yeah.
What was the trade?
It is Kyle Pitts goes to Carey. Was it Nick? It's Hunzy. Yep. Receives Jake Ferguson, a 2026 third, and a 2027 second.
Yeah, okay.
I want Nick's side of this. Even saying that I'm buying Kyle Pitts, we also said we're going to buy Jake Ferguson.
Right.
Jake Ferguson has arguably proven more than Kyle Pitts. Like, as far as like just last year ago, granted, Kyle Pitts has the upgrade, but you're getting a younger, well, they're about the same age, but you're getting about the same, and you get the pick capital. And I don't think, even with the Kirk Cousins thing, I don't think Jake Ferguson is a huge step down from Kyle Pitts. So I like Nick's side of this trade.
Right on. I'm with you. I thought when I first saw that, I was like, whoa, Carey, boy, you really want Kyle Pitts.
He wanted him.
And yeah.
Good on Carey. Go get your guy, man.
Yeah. But I think I'm with you. I like Nick's side of that much better.
You got to love Carey, though. He's not afraid to pull a trigger.
No, he's not at all. That dude's wheeling. That's why we put him in this league. Yep. He's aggressive. I love Carey. We all love Carey. All right, let's move on to running backs. Alvin Kamara. It seems obvious due to age, and it is. But I just want to note this because I think Kamara is a guy you're better off moving sooner rather than later. Don't let all the catches fool you. As Tyler stated, the decline has already started. Average of 3.9 yards per carry. It's not going up, I don't believe. So waiting too long is just going to put a dent in his value. So I think both agree and believe that moving him right now equals more value for you rather than, several weeks into the season. I think right now you get the most you can now before it's too late. I know we've discussed him enough to this point. I mean, it's kind of beating a dead horse. I just thought that he was important to note. Get off him now.
Yeah, I got off him at the end of last season, and I'll be honest with you, I was ecstatic to get it first.
Oh, I can't believe you got it.
I mean, just because, like, when you start looking at it, if he is not catching all those passes, and he's not doing a ton with the passes, or with the catches, I'm sorry. If you have Kamara, if you're on a rebuild team, he should already be gone. To be honest with you, get rid of him now.
Okay, let's move on to Travis Etienne.
I'm gonna let you take this one, Chad.
All right, no problem. First of all, if you're rebuilding, running back's the last thing you should be concerned with. Okay. Said it a million times up to this point. Now, with that said, I do not buy into Etienne. Averaged 3.8 yards per carry last year. Very spotty up and down fantasy asset with very minimal consistency. Again, I just don't buy the talent. And the thing is, I never really did. When he was coming out, I didn't either. He's not an efficient running back. I don't believe he's a guy who can shoulder a load. And I think he could lose some touches this year in some fashion. They gave him 47 more carries in 2023 as opposed to 2022. I'm not a fan of what I saw. The Jags did have a collapse, which affected him for sure, but also it should be noted the second half of their schedule was much tougher against the run, and he didn't impress at all. Mm-mm. To be fair, he was barely a 1,000-yard rusher, but his game log screams DK Metcalf's game log. I'm selling Etienne, whether I'm a rebuilder or a contender. And what I like here, so this might be the selling point to you and those listening. Maybe you already sold. Maybe I've already sold you, Ty. I don't know. My favorite part about moving him, like regardless of your situation, is how the vast majority seems to value him.
Yeah.
This has got Hall written all over it. So that's yeah. So I mean, if you have league members that will give you a Hall, I'm telling you, take the Hall.
Put him up on the block.
Put him on the block and take the Hall. I don't care what your position is right now. And then take the Hall you get, grab a pick, and go get a better running back. If you're a contender,
Travis Etienne is a sell if you're a contender, and you need to sell if you're a rebuilder.
He sure is.
Okay.
He sure is. You got any pushback?
If I'm a contender, I really have to get a Hall for him. And I hate the boomer bust thing, and I agree with you. You proved that when you pulled up the game log. I hate the boomer bust thing from any wide receiver or running back.
Yeah, I don't care what the position is.
It's terrible.
It's why I don't ever have George Kittle. It's why I don't ever have DK Metcalf. Like, those guys exist, and I just stay away from them.
If I'm a rebuilder, though, I'm going after younger players or picks, definitely. If I'm a contender, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to probably wait it out.
That could make it worse, though.
It could. It very well could. That's my gut right now telling me that if I'm a contender, I'm going to wait that one out.
What if you know someone's trying to sell Barkley? And you're a contender right now. Straight up. I'd want to.
I think you could get more, but like I'm not.
I'm also a huge proponent of, like, every time I trade somebody, and Tyler can attest, every time I do a trade, it's like, can you throw a fourth in there? Throw a third. I'm always trying to get that extra random little pick.
Yeah.
Just because you can.
Sometimes guys will just throw it in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm smart, so I try to no, I'm keeping my fourth round pick. I can get a gem with that. But I never do, but I try. But no, like, obviously try to get more with Saquon and use the age as your push, but I'll take it.
Like, even someone's trying to trade Saquon, say they don't have any interest in ETN, they want picks. If you can get some picks and a player for ETN, keep the player and turn around and flip a pick for Saquon. I don't know, man. I'm just not an ETN. There's going to be people listening to this. It's like, you are out of your brain. I don't think I
will
am.
say, a person that we talked about before, I'll try to get picks and a guy like Devin Singletary for ETN.
Sure. Yeah,
and you might get the same production from Singletary that you get from ATN, maybe even more on a consistent basis, and you got picks to go with it.
Yeah. Yep. So that's my piece on Travis Etienne.
Boy, I hope Travis Etienne never listens to Rabbit Hole.
All right, let's move on to a couple of ties, guys, here. Let's go on to Tony Pollard.
Yeah, Tony Pollard got a bag. Here's my thing with Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard got the workload we all wanted him to have last year. We're coming in like, oh yeah, Tony Pollard's the guy. Let's get it. Here we go. Problem is he didn't have the production we all wanted him to have.
He fooled me. I got fooled.
Yep. He's in Tennessee now, and his ADP and his price is pretty high, and I think Diontae Spears is the guy. I think it's a split backfield, don't get me wrong, but I honestly think Diontae Spears is the running back that you want to have on this team for a redraft or a dynasty. Definitely a dynasty, but I think for a redraft, also you want Diontae Spears. I think he gets the most work, and right now Pollard's ADP is high and his value is high.
Move now. I agree. Yep. And we touched on this in a previous episode. End of season, Diontae Spears sold.
He was explosive.
Yeah.
He was.
It's not like it wasn't world beating stuff, but he was on the Titans and things were weird, and Levis was in there, and Vrabel probably knew he was done, and it was odd, but there was something there that I was like, oh yeah, I like Diontae Spears. I don't care if he doesn't have any ACLs. That dude is solid.
Yeah.
And I think he's just a better running back than Tony Pollard.
Yeah, but Tony Pollard is way higher on him on rankings and ADP, so I want to cash out on Tony Pollard right now because I think my prediction is that Diontae Spears is a better running back at the end of the year, so I'm taking Tony Pollard's high value right now and getting rid of him. Okay.
Let's move on to your next one in Rachaad White.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here because I really like to trade Rachaad White in the league, but he's a sell for me. White was second in rushing attempts. He had 272 attempts last year, 14th in yards. He averaged a pedestrian 3.6 yards per carry. His catching ability made him a top 10 back. Again, like some of these players we talked about, I want to cash in on last year right now.
Yep.
I think Bucky Irving gets some first and second down work because of the lack of production from Rachaad White in first and second down role. Just, he also, there's like some weird, he was 89th in yards after contact.
Oof.
He was 84th in missed tackles per attempt.
Good Lord.
Like, if I think Bucky Irving has a really opportunity to come in here and take some work, I want to sell Rachaad White now off of that high season that he had last year.
Yep. In agreement. We don't disagree too much on how to play with the running backs here.
Now, maybe we get to some sleepers. We can have some good disagreements.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. All right. That's all we have for sells for running backs. So we're going to move on to wide receiver sells. My first one is Stefon Diggs. There is pretty good odds that he's going to be a guy that's fun to have on your team. But with his age and time left in the NFL and all these mouths to feed, there's no reason to hold him. If you're rebuilding, why? Like what? Why? Go get a. You might be able to get a decent trade off of the right team.
Yeah.
His time's against you. I want draft picks and or players. Go get yourself a second and Michael Wilson. Go get a second and a third. Go get 2/3. I don't know. Go, but you got to get something here.
I love the Michael Wilson one. Go do that right now.
Yeah. I wouldn't wait on it either.
No.
Because like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, and there is a chance that he does disappoint.
I think it's Nico Collins. And I think just because of Stefon Diggs' track record, that's a problem for Stefon Diggs. Yeah. And honestly, and I could be totally wrong on this, you try not to let stuff affect you when you're drafting fantasy players or trading for fantasy players. A player's attitude, like Stefon Diggs, bothers me more than an injury.
Oh, me too. No,
I'll take a chance on an injury before I will a player with a bad attitude.
Yeah, good point. All right, Stefon Diggs, move him while his value is high, folks. Let's move on to DK Metcalf. You knew he was coming up. This is not age-based. This is similar to Etienne and is based on what I believe is a player who is just simply extremely overrated. And I think you can bank off of an overpay, just like Etienne, and get yourself a real upgrade. As a rebuilder or even a contender. It's too spotty. Go get an upgrade, whether it's picks or players. There's no consistency here, man.
No.
And I can't, I just want to rip my hair out. It's been pretty proven. He's overdrafted. He's, extremely overvalued. And because of that, I'm going to sell to the highest bidder and I'm getting better somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't have any pushback on DK.
That's all I have. I have nothing else to say.
You're talking Dynasty. I don't think this guy's a Seahawk for much longer. You don't know where he's going to end up.
Now that might...
It could go both ways.
Yeah, but I'm going to stick to...
Like the guy goes to Denver.
Yeah.
It could go both ways.
Goes to Buffalo. Ooh.
Yeah, that could be scary. I'm gonna lie there.
But as long as he's in Seattle, we have to believe he's in Seattle.
It's just been so boom or bust throughout his career that it's.
Yep. I'm going to move off him, and I'm going to move on to Brandon Aiyuk for Tyler.
Yeah, this is
this is interesting. Brandon Aiyuk, let's hear it.
Oh, he's drawn a lot of attention lately for the wrong reasons.
Don't like that.
I am shipping him with the belief that his tag is entirely too high, even this year, playing for the San Francisco 49ers. In 2023, Aiyuk is also a player that is kind of boom or bust when you look at it. Not to the extent of a DK Metcalf, but...
Is that a San Fran problem?
I don't know. In 2023, Aiyuk had only 4 top 20 finishes. Was wide receiver 30 or worse on 6 different occasions. Failed to top 80 yards on 8 occasions. Nothing is different in this system for Brandon Aiyuk, assuming he plays for San Francisco at the start of the season, except his price tag. He is being priced like an elite wide receiver 1, and I just don't think it's there. I want to sell him high right now, and the trade rumors hurt that.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know where he's going to go, and everybody knows that San Francisco has a high-powered offense, but it's not a consistent thing.
Do you think if he landed somewhere where he doesn't have Kittle, Debo, McCaffrey, do you think that's better for him, or are you just
better because it's not as many mouths to feed, and like Brandon Aiyuk does create separation.
So can you argue that you hold and stay patient and hope for a trade, or is that just too scary to do?
You could make that argument, but yeah, you could definitely make that argument, but I still want to sell Brandon Aiyuk.
Even if he, say tomorrow he lands in Buffalo, are you still selling?
No.
See, there is some spot. If he lands in Washington, are you selling?
Yes.
I think I am too.
Yep.
I think I am too.
Because I think there's going to be a lot of hype around that, and there's still a lot of mouths to feed in Washington. Terry McLaurin's still good. Maybe not the same level as some of the guys that he's playing with in San Fran, or I think he is. I think Terry McLaurin's on the same level as like a Debo Samuel or a younger quarterback. But I think there's a lot of hype there right now, and you get a good price for Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay, fair enough. That was an intro. I was really excited to hear that when I seen that.
Some of that stuff was surprising to me, like only 4 top 20 finishes.
Yeah, so I've referenced my wife before. I'll reference her again. Why not?
Yeah.
She's had Brandon Aiyuk, and I've watched her rip her hair out. Like, what is going on?
Right.
She'd like come to me like, is he good or not?
Right.
Well, he is, but
I remember week 1 against Pittsburgh last year. That guy just came out. He had like 2 touchdowns. It was an amazing game. And then like there was like a 3 or 4 week spell where it was like, what's going on here?
But is it fair to say that Aiyuk, Kittle, and Debo all deal with that in San Fran? This roller coaster of points up and down the board.
Yeah, but when he's healthy, don't you feel like Debo is more consistent?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I do. I'd have to look at that.
And the other argument with that is Debo doesn't draw the price tag that Brandon Aiyuk is right now.
That's a very fair point. Yes.
You can draft Debo Samuel much later than you can Brandon Aiyuk.
That's true. That's a great point.
So that's my thing, like, to finish this off, is that nothing has really changed because he hasn't been traded yet. Nothing's happened as of today. Nothing has changed except for his price tag. And I think it's just too high. So I want to sell now. While he's where he is at in the rankings and everybody thinks he's going to do this, I think it's iffy. I want to sell him right now.
Tyler?
Yeah.
I trust you.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Tight end sells. Moving on. TJ Hockenson. So this is age-based a little, being he's 27, but it's coupled with that wicked injury he just sustained.
Yeah, it was a bad one.
It's a nasty one. And I love TJ Hockenson, man. I would be okay keeping him around if you're a rebuilder who's like kind of on the verge of becoming a contender. But if not, I'm going to sell. And like if you're like full on rebuild, I'm selling and I'm getting everything that I can.
The price for Hockenson coming off that injury is still high.
Right.
For whatever reason, the tight end is treated different. It's not like a running back where the price drops. Like he's still got a pretty high price tag right now.
Are you going to sell him early or let it play out a little bit and see if you can gain some value?
If I have him on my roster, I'm waiting until you start hearing stuff that he's getting healthy and he's getting ready to come back.
Okay.
And I want to say I'm greedy and I always want to go for that high point.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's just not a talent thing. I love TJ Hockenson, man. And this next guy, it pains me so much to put him on here because I love this dude. But George Kittle. I love George Kittle. I really do. Problem is, I like real life George Kittle, and I'm not a big fan of fantasy football George Kittle. He is easily one of the most inconsistent players to own. It's very hard to rely on. Couple that with the age of 30.
Some injury history there.
Yeah, injury. There's no reason for a rebuilder to hold here, right?
No.
I mean, there's no... The beauty of it, though, is the name value that we always talk about. Yep. He still... And I believe you brought that up, and I agree with you. He still carries that name value. It even translates into drafts.
It does.
Whether it's redrafts or a startup, it's still there.
He hasn't really finished as a top 5 tight end in a couple years, and he's still getting drafted that way.
I know. So I guess with that said, I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but you might be able to get more for him than one might think.
Yeah.
Because of that name value.
A lot of the stuff we've already touched on with Brandon Aiyuk, where mouths to feed, and it's just...
And he's not going anywhere.
No.
He's going to retire a Niner, as he should. He is a beast. He is an awesome football player. He is a fantastic blocker. He does his job better than almost everybody in the NFL. I love George Kittle.
Some of the best sound bites in the NFL,
Oh,
too.
yes.
Man, I done tripped over somebody's foot.
No, you didn't. That was all me.
He's fantastic, man. But we're talking fantasy football, and it's just, you got to play with your brain and not your heart. And I say that all the time.
Rebuild, I don't think it's a question. You're trying to sell him right now.
It's not close. Next guy is your guy, and I fully agree. David Njoku.
Njoku exploded last year from weeks 12 to 17.
There's a reason, but I'll let you say it.
Yeah. Him and Joe Flacco really clicked.
Sure did.
They really clicked. You know who's not in Cleveland this year, Chad?
Ooh.
Joe Flacco.
Oh, man.
I just do not have I don't have the confidence in Deshaun Watson to, like, the numbers just exploded so much when Joe Flacco was throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're a David Njoku owner, the hope is that Deshaun Watson and the coaching staff seen that and seen the player that he can be. I don't think Deshaun Watson is ever going to be the player that he was.
Nope. It's over.
So I am selling David Njoku off of that momentum from last year because I don't think it's replicable. If you're a Njoku owner and you want to hold on to him, and I've said this on numerous podcasts, start praying for Jameis Winston to get in there.
Yep. Ty, I have zero pushback, zero arguments. I've been screaming this since the end of last year. There was a recent trade in the podcast league.
Yeah.
Where I believe John acquired David Njoku.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the trade right in front of me. I can't remember. But he commented, there was a couple wows, in the chat. And he commented, well, people are paying firsts, for tight ends. And
he didn't give up a first.
No, he did not give up a first. And I immediately fired back because I gave Ingram a first. And I said, well, that's very different. That McBride is going to be worth more than that future first round pick that I gave. What do you got? You got the trade?
Yep. You ready for it?
Yep.
John got David Njoku. He gave up Hunter Henry, a 25 second, a 25 third, and a 27 fourth. I hope for John's sake that
the Hunter Henry thing I'm fine with.
Jameis Winston. Yeah, I don't.
But you gave us a 2, a 3, and a 4.
Yeah. Nothing from 24 though.
Okay. That's fair.
25 second, 25 third, 27 fourth. I don't have a problem with this. I think if you take off one of those picks, I think this is about right.
If you give a third and a fourth,
yeah,
I'm okay with it.
The second, I'm a little. I just don't.
The second's too much.
And I think the talent is there with Njoku.
Yep, he's just not in a good spot.
No, I just don't think. It's Deshaun Watson, and I want to sell David Njoku before Deshaun Watson comes in and slows this train down.
Sure. Listen, if he was a Falcon with Kirk Cousins and Pitts wasn't there, if he was in Kincaid's shoes in Buffalo and Kincaid wasn't there, you could make a ton of awesome arguments for Njoku.
No, it's Deshaun Watson holding Njoku back.
It is 100%. Zero pushback, no argument, none whatsoever. I'm way off of David Njoku.
If David Njoku balls out and you didn't give him a first round pick this year, or you didn't give a first round for him, make sure you let us know about it.
Yep, please do. Oh, we'll know.
Yeah.
We'll know. All right. So that's all we have for our buys and sells. So we have sent in by our listener Chance a grade the trade question. So this is a 12-man Dynasty league. I have 12-man league, full point PPR, one quarterback. This is a 1 QB league. Our listener Chance gives up Jamar Chase in a 2025 first. He acquires a 2024 107, a 2024 104, a 2024 110, and a 2025 third round pick. Holy crap.
Yeah.
So we happen to have here what he got.
Yep, they already did their rookie redraft.
They already had their rookie. So, again, he gave Jamar Chase in a 2025 first.
And he has stated, too, that this is a rebuild for him. He's rebuilding this team.
Yep. He turned those 3 first-round picks into Brock Bowers, Brian Thomas, and Xavier Worthy. Let me repeat that. He gave Jamar Chase in a 2025 first for Brock Bowers, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, and a 25 third. Chance, A+, you win the trade. Tyler?
A.
A?
Yep.
Not a plus?
Not a plus. I'll give him an A.
See, he's the jerk between the two of us.
Definitely.
I tried to curve your grade a little bit, and he shot me down.
No, I love this trade.
It's
for
a great trade.
Yeah, I love it for a rebuild team, and I think he did great in the draft to get Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas. You got 2 young wide receivers to replace your veteran. Still got that 25 third.
You can
Brock
see
Bowers,
yeah,
solid tight end. I mean, for a rebuild, this is all. Thank you for sending this in, and if you're in a rebuild mode, these are the moves that you want to make.
Yeah, if you can get someone to give you 3 top 10 firsts,
yeah,
holy crap. I mean, you do it. It's probably a bit of a rare thing, but it happens. I mean, right here, we're looking at it right now. It happened. And he's got a good team, man. You know, he's got Brock Purdy, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs. He's got Tank Dell. Chance, if you are feeling like you're still rebuilding, I wouldn't be afraid to move off of Josh Jacobs, buddy.
Yeah.
Or James Conner. The time's coming. You got a lot. You got your deep
if
quarterback.
you can get a good wide receiver or replace that 25 first with some of them, do it.
I would do the same. You've got quarterback depth. You've got some good young pieces on the bench. You've got Keon Coleman's on there. Somehow he must have just loaded on picks.
Had to have a second pick that he.
Brendan Rice, Jalen Wright.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in good shape.
Excellent job, man.
Sell Kirk Cousins right now. You've got Purdy, Love, and you've got Trevor Lawrence.
Get something for Cousins.
Yep, get something there. Yeah, great job, man. And thanks for listening. Thanks for sending it in. We really, really appreciate it.
Please
That's
send us
fun.
more.
Yeah, send us more. If you got this stuff, man, send it in. We love seeing this stuff. That's it for Grade the Trade. We just had one today. I hope we have a lot more going forward. So, Tyler, you have any final thoughts?
Yeah. Again, please send that stuff in. We love that stuff. I got to give a shout out to our producer, Mitchell. He's been doing a lot of awesome stuff for the podcast, making it a lot better in every way that you can possibly think of. Mitchell, you make this thing run, man. We appreciate you.
I could not possibly.
That's the bird.
There's the bird.
Yeah.
Oh, bird person. Yeah, we're big fans, man. For those of you that don't know, we have started getting our rankings in order. They're not public yet. They're going to be. Mitchell has created this incredible spreadsheet for us, like just making our job easier. What we see will be made public to you, and you'll be able to see it, and you'll be able to see Mitchell's work. Our rankings with his system, it's pretty incredible. So yeah, I will piggyback on that, and thank you so much. Yep. And also, my final thought is, don't sit on your hands. I repeat, don't sit on your hands. Make the moves, trade the running backs, get the old men off your roster, let the other guys have their year, and you get ready for the future so you can have your year and you can kick dirt right back on them, dude. So yeah. All right, so that's it for today's show. Again, as always, thank you all so much for tuning in and giving us your support. We greatly appreciate it. Join us next time for sleepers, breakouts, and busts. And remember, if you'd like your trades graded, please check out the description for details. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to our Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. And please tell your friends. See you next time, everybody.